signal. And as you can see, we have the signal. Okay, if we're going to go to YouTube right now, this is my link. Okay, I can copy it, and if I go to YouTube and paste the link,
We have an internal CRM.
you see, as you can see, I'm live.
One
Okay,
route. Do you call
so
that
what
a
I'm gonna
CRM?
do, I'm gonna go back to OBS. Okay,
Because
and
seriously
I'm
now,
gonna
guys,
go
it's
choose
one route
the
in
show
CRM.
scene, which is
We
this one.
don't.
Okay,
One was like
and I'm gonna take it. So as you can see, my video is loaded here. Okay, and I'm gonna take it, send it to program by cutting
because
the
if we have an
fader.
internal
So let's use
CRM,
fade.
what
Okay,
it does is it
so as
connects
I
the CRM
fade, you can
to
see
Power BI.
that the
Okay,
video
so whatever is being
starts
fed into the
playing.
CRM
Okay, so of
is
course I
taken to
just
Power BI
picked up
directly.
one of our church videos, and there's a little announcement at the beginning. But if we
Good
wait
evening,
for a
everyone. My name
little
is
bit,
Bukemi
you
Most of
can
the
Akim
see
Momo.
it starts
Thanks
playing
Traction Ventures
and
for having
everything
me
is
today.
good.
I'm the
I
founder of
see
Side
like
Hustle
the
NG.
Recording
Side
is
Hustle
on.
NG is
tells us
still
how
my
So
side
yeah,
hustle.
so as you can see,
I work as an
I'm
HR
at
consultant. I
YouTube
have an HR
now. It's
consulting business,
playing. Okay,
and I started Side
so
Hustle
it's live.
NG out of
Okay,
passion when I realized that
quality
there were so many fora and opportunities and
HD, no
communities for
problem.
full-time entrepreneurs.
This
The
is
same
just
for
a
those in
video
careers,
that
but
was
side
recorded
hustlers are in between career
before we
people
wanted
and
to have
full-time
a
entrepreneurs,
video
and there didn't seem to be anyone
information
addressing
about
that gap. So I thought,
doing
okay, why not start this
health,
community? That was
everything.
it.
So guys, this is
Great,
how you do it.
great, and
All you need to
and I
do, you
think
can
that
either
Tosin, there is
edit
another reason
here
that
or go
that
to
I thought was also
this,
super important
and
besides the fact that,
click
and I would
start.
like you over the course of
Okay,
today's session to
what's gonna
speak to
do
that,
is gonna
was that besides obviously the content of Money Africa
okay. So
is
guys, that's
is
how you
is
do
is
it.
really
Very
around,
simple, very
however,
straightforward. And
wherever you
again,
find
the
yourself,
starting
how are
price,
you
I have
building
this
that
if you
personal
see it
finance,
like
right?
this for watching
And I
and
imagine
we
that
have some
over the
other
course of today's
aspects
session,
that we
we
have
can speak to a little bit of those
we can have
principles that you've seen even from investing. You don't have to be a full-time investor,
right
but how do you save,
this
those
is
those
able
principles,
to we're
I
gonna
believe
play
that it
this
can be
every
applied even regardless
OBS
of
live
into
stream.
other side hustles, for example. Um, but I think we should just start from a discovery point of view. Let's start with Tosi. How did you come about? You know, you know, I wanted to even talk about Money Africa a little bit, but how did you start that process of formalizing? Testing out Money Africa and bringing it and eventually fully launching it to what it is today.
Because it just defeats
Right.
anything
All
I
right.
wanted to
Thanks a lot
do,
for that question,
anything I
Olako.
wanted to speak
It was
about.
in
But yeah,
2018. I was
as
literally, I mean, all my friends know that I really love
as
money
the
conversations, and also
okay.
with my
So
background, it's always
finally,
been
for
beauty,
this
finance, and all of
particular
that.
session,
So I
if
always just
I'm
speak
done,
about, you do like Facebook posts and
so
now
honest
about all
opinion,
those
right?
different things.
I mean, I'm
I'm
new
going to be
here.
very honest. At no point did I think that, you could
Honest
formalize and
opinion.
done put in
What
structure and all of
exactly
that. It was really
is
just something I was very passionate about.
what
So
would make
then
our
Instagram
work
was like a
easier?
new okay,
What
there was
would
a
make
friend of mine
us
who was doing a course talking how to
what
be an
would make
influencer, something along those lines. And I was
trying to
actually really,
get the
really
right
lucky and
word, what
really
would
like
make
I
us
was like,
work
oh,
better?
all
What
those
would
people
make
with
our
always
work
their funny
better?
Zoom classes and all of that. You know how it is in my 9 to 5, and you always sort of look down on all this other things like anyhow, I've got some free time, why not? And they started talking about how 1 minute videos, what Real is doing now, 1 minute videos then was the hot thing that you can actually just choose any topic and just do 1 minute videos. I love videos, I love to talk, and I love money. So why not? So I just started doing 1 minute videos talking about money, wear my red lipstick and just talk about treasury bills, mutual funds, and all of that. I was having fun. At no point did I think, we're going to be here. I was just really having fun. And then we saw the numbers.
Only man you.
Numbers started to surge. So we went from 1,000 to like 2,000 to 5,000 to 10,000. And then knowing that we're not an entertainment page, this was a bell. So I was like, okay, wait, this means something. They wanted to. So what do we need to do? Shortly after that, I think about 5 months into us, me just playing around and having fun, an insurance company had reached out and said, you know what, we want you to speak about insurance. And you don't have to mention any product, just educate about insurance. So I was like, how much will I charge them? And I was playing around. I gave them an invoice for 1 million and they did not question it. It was at that point I knew that
There was
I've
value.
got to take this seriously. And that was it. So I said, calling lawyers, please help me register this business. And I said,
Mm. So something was a hobby, and the inflection point was when someone was ready to pay serious money for something that was a hobby, and you articulated that as value, serious value. Okay, that's super interesting. Bubemi?
Okay. Okay. So like I said, I literally woke up one day, and when I mean literally, I was sleeping and I woke up one day and I realized you should do something for side hustlers. Now, before that, I'd always been interested in entrepreneurship. So as far back as I think 2011, 2012, I started doing some consulting work with the Enterprise Development Center. But before that, I'd been doing a series of events and sessions and trainings for entrepreneurs under what I called the Spirit of Enterprise at the time. Now, what I was doing with the Spirit of Enterprise at that time is what I'm currently doing with Side Hustlers, but then I wasn't quite sure what it was. So like I said, I literally woke up one day and I realized that it was actually Side Hustlers were people I wanted to reach out to. And that was because, like I said earlier on, I realized that there was really no one addressing that interval between being in full-time employment and moving into a full-time business. Now, not everybody takes that side hustle route as an opportunity to start a full-time business. But I realized that many more people do take that route. And for some people, the challenge of how to manage the side hustle, how to decide even what to do as a side hustle, how to manage it with a full-time job, and then how to decide to transit into a full-time business if they choose to do so is a challenge. So we started, first of all, organizing. I started on Instagram actually for about 1 or 2 years, just posting stuff, motivational stuff, and things like that. And it occurred to me one day, there's really no point just posting stuff on Instagram. You might as well just get people together. And, building communities is something that sort of comes naturally to me. I just like getting people together. So we had a meetup May 2018 was our first meetup, and I literally just put it on Instagram and I was like, would anyone be interested in coming to meet up with other side hustlers? And, I got a bunch of positive responses. And the first meetup, I think we had about 20 to 25 people. So we just basically gathered and started talking about different things that people had experienced, side hustles that people were into, the challenges that they faced, what they thought their needs were, where they needed support, that sort of thing. And it sort of grew from there. So from that time up until now, we've been having almost quarterly meetups. Nice. We have a small group where some of us are also in, where we also talk about side hustles, encourage one another, where people need help, to voice out. We've been having knowledge sharing sessions within our groups, within the group as well. Just basically an opportunity to upskill people. As of now, within that community, maybe only about 2 people have gone on to full-time entrepreneurship, but there's no pressure. Because like I always say, transiting to a full-time business is not compulsory. You can decide to do side hustle for the rest of your life if you choose to. But it would be nice if you transited into a full-time business.
So let's start. Let me ask. So that's super important. Well done for championing this cause. As the economy shows us, it's continues to do what it is doing. I think so everyone is thinking about what is a side hustle that they can explore. But a follow-up question for you is, how does one choose, a particular side hustle that will suit them? How, what should you be thinking about, essentially,
Okay. In Nigeria, typically, when people think about side hustles, it's the economic aspect. Most people are in side hustles because they need to make more money, largely because their salaries can't take them home or can't pay for some of the other excesses that they'd like to indulge in. So one very good point for people is that economic motivation, the fact that they need more money. So for those kind of people, really, the choice as to what to do as a side hustle is not necessarily as important as what they can get out of whatever it is that they do as a side hustle. So for example, that sort of person could be selling shoes today, and tomorrow could be selling rice, and then the day after that could be selling pens, they'll typically chase the next opportunity. So yeah, I could say they're opportunity driven. Some other people are more interest driven, or should I say interest and passion sort of. So for example, like myself, I started my career in HR consulting. And after that, I moved into working in HR in an investment bank. So HR is something I've always loved, consulting, and before I started, my business full time, it was sort of like a side hustle. And I say sort of like a side hustle because at the time I didn't really know what a side hustle was. I just knew that sometimes, I could train for a company or, help provide some consulting advice for a company or sit with a friend at an interview, and I'd get paid for it. So I didn't think of it as a side hustle because I didn't really understand what a side hustle was at that time. So for me, HR consulting was more an interest-based decision. For some other people, leaning on that as well, there's also where your comfort zone is based on where your experience is or where your qualifications are. So say, for example, if you studied as an accountant and you're not working in accounting, for example, but you really love accounting, you could start an accounting side hustle because you're really passionate about it. On the flip side, there's the accountant as well who's working in accounting, but wants to do something else. So say, for example, she wants to bake cakes. That sort of person would be driven by her passion for baking cakes and could start a baking side hustle. So those are three basic reasons I think I've highlighted: motivation, typically based on opportunity, interest and passion, and also based on education or qualification or career experience.
Great. So motivation, opportunity, interest and passion, and qualification or expertise. I'm taking notes as well. Tosin, for you, right? I imagine that you fall under the, would I say the interest and passion? And I know you have several passions. One was, I know you also have love to travel, and there are a couple of things. So how did you? First of all, is it fair to say that was your passion, or was that an expertise? But even regardless, I know that you have several expertise, you have several passions. How did you then center it on this topic, on this this area?
Yeah, I really love that question, Dolapo, and I want to say that maybe there might have just also been a time and chance here, right? Because I know that late 2017, that was when I started just talking about this. I think also was the attention, the fact that people were listening, because it's very easy for me to have said, I focused on this thing. How about if nobody was listening? Would I have continued? Right. So maybe it was because also they were listening. So it's almost as though you're doing something and people are reacting like, oh, wait, let me give them more of that. So there's passion, there's expertise, and there's also time and chance. I think the market was also ready. Young people were also thinking about, I want to live a better, I want to live my best life. How can I make it happen? How can I hammer in a legit way? So everything sort of aligned. So expertise, passion, and then opportunity. So all of them sort of aligned here.
Okay. And I know you love traveling as well. And why didn't you go and choose that as?
That's a good one, Dolapo. That's a good one. Now, a lot of people actually look at lifestyle creators and all of that. But guess what? Yeah. Number one, the market is saturated.
Yes.
Number two, it is a very tough one to actually hack, right? So there are lots of lifestyle producers out there, people traveling frequently. So I really, really love to travel. But let's say I can only afford 4 travels like a whole year. And like your proper travel content creator is like doing once every month. You understand? Where do I then get those content? So also you also have to look at the market, where you're playing and things like that. But yeah, actually I see what you're saying. But yeah.
Yeah. But as through your personal finance teachings and the community, I know that there's a bias to investing, but I'm very sure, a lot of people are interested in starting a business, for, as a way to increase wealth and increase income. what would you say are like the top 5 easy approaches, to, if and from top of your head, that would be an easy side hustle while owning a full-time job? I'll ask Bubemi the question, but I wanted to start with you. Yeah.
Right. I really, really love this question. But before I proceed, I also want us to just put this out there. There are a lot of people that always think, entrepreneurship is the way, let's swap to this side of life. And I'm telling you now, based on numbers and based on data, in actual fact, a high-paying 9-to-5 job guarantees you financial independence more than entrepreneurship. And I'm not discouraging you. I mean, I'm an entrepreneur and I have a lot of entrepreneur friends, but based on the data, the numbers don't lie. So now let me answer the last question. Number one, the top 5 ways for us, number one, go into business. Number one, we are not going into business because we do not have options. Because whenever we are doing it because we don't have options, there's a very high tendency for it to be a survival mode. And there's only so much you can do in the survival mode. Now, people talk about how a lot of Nigerians are entrepreneurs, which is true, but many of them are in survival mode, that they're doing from hand to mouth, and we don't want to be there, right? So we're not doing it because we lack options. Options are excellent, so that if push comes to shove, but when we wanted to move to a 9-to-5 tomorrow, I would have lots and lots of options. So we always want to create options for ourselves. That's number one. Number two, in terms of what kind of businesses can I start? Again, numbers don't lie. You have to look into the market. What is the demand? What is the supply? For instance, my sister loves to make crochet bags and all of that. But you also ask yourself, in a country like Nigeria, there's such a huge demand for crochet blankets. Are you making crop tops instead? Are you making bomb shirts instead because of our weather and things like that? So while passion is great, you also have to be ruthlessly honest. One thing about entrepreneurship is honesty. Numbers don't lie. What is the number telling us? Is there a market there? Yes. Is the market not there? No. We take the information and we move. So number one, options. Number two, is there a market are we actually providing for a market? Number three, you're also looking at things like, what is the ease of me? How quickly can I actually get this thing done? So for instance, if you're depending heavily on things that have to be imported, right? Are you able to plan your entire production in such a way that you are not at the mercy of if they close the ports? So you're also looking at alternatives. How dependent am I on external factors? As much as possible, we want to do it in such a way that we're not heavily dependent on things that are out of our control, right? That's also very important. Then number 4 as well is there are lots and lots of low-hanging fruits. I see a lot of people are a bit worried about going into a space that other people are already in. You're thinking about something magical, like I want to wake up this morning and I want to start talking about how to draw a star. Why are you thinking about how to draw a star? For instance, there's a huge demand about lots of businesses are online. They're thinking about how to give themselves nice designs and things like that. Always follow the numbers. So you don't have to reinvent or create something that is superb or something. You can even go and improve on what is already existing. So there are lots of businesses existing, but they have weaknesses. How can I just go and improve on that? So stop trying to create something out of the world. How can I improve what is existing? How can I help the process? How can I understand? So that's also fine. If I just be staring you in the face. And then the last but not the least is also denting. There was a time when in Africa I was the poster designer, content creator, going for meetings. There's a time when your business is now telling you that this is time to get extra hands. Many people, because of mindset, they don't do it, and then they miss the opportunity for growth. So you also again have to notice this. Is the time right for me to get better hands, for me to get funding, for me to get external help, and let this thing grow? Or am I just going to hold on to it because I want to own everything and things like that? So also that's also very important. So yeah, that's it.
That was super insightful. Thank you so much. I'm here taking notes. Moving over to you, I think Tosin has basically spoken around the inflection points and when it's time to take your business and formalize, but also with, and she gave us, factors to consider, when it's, which kinds of side hustles one should explore. I mean, for you, what would you say is, in Nigeria at the moment, right? It might not be like, going to fashion, but what would you say the types of side hustles you have seen that essentially works, and one should consider?
Okay, I will answer that and then backtrack slightly to what I think are the easiest side hustles to start as well. So the most common side hustles are things that tend to do with some sort of creative skill. So graphic design, website design, coding these days, all the way to shoemaking, fashion, baking cakes, making drinks. Yeah, those sorts of things really. I find, I don't know really, but I find that maybe it's either a lot of people are artistically inclined, so those things tend to come to them naturally, or some people see that there's some sort of need. Like Tosin said, ordinarily you think there are 1 million and one fashion designers or tailors out there. Why would I even want to start something like that? But there's always a market for you in that kind of environment. As what I think the easiest side hustles are, I think the easiest side hustles are those where you don't need to spend so much money, where the demand is primarily based on your time. So you can also determine how you go about that side hustle. And those kind of side hustles are typically the kind of side hustles that can be enabled by technology. So you can use your laptop or your phone or a camera, for example. And these kind of things are typically service-based kind of businesses. So for example, like consulting, when I moved into my business full time, and I didn't really move into my business from being a side hustle. So remember, I was working in full-time employment, but when I left employment, I went to do a master's, and it was when I got back after my master's and I was trying to decide what it was I wanted to do that I sort of stumbled into, making my side hustle full-time. So even from when my side hustle was a side hustle, and even from when I started, my business full time, the only thing I really needed to spend money on was a laptop, which I already had, and a phone. All I needed to do was, if I needed to make calls to clients, I had my phone. If I needed to write proposals, write reports, do documents, it was largely based on my phone. So I didn't have to spend money, even on office space. I could sit down at home and do my work, or I could go to a client and do my work, or I could go to a cafe. So you find out that where there's little pressure to spend above and beyond, a reasonable amount of resources, people will generally gravitate towards those kind of things, and people will find those kind of things easier. So for example, someone who wants to start an accounting side hustle as well, all you simply need is either an accounting package, or if you want to get down to the most minimal, Excel. You don't need to buy a car. Because even if you have to go to the client's office, you can take a cab, So anything that minimizes the amount of money that you need to spend upfront, I would say, is the easiest side hustle to get into. And those kind of things are typically service-based businesses. And then recognizing that a side hustle is something you do while you're still in employment, it restricts the amount of time that you can spend doing things. So if, for example, my side hustle was in baking, I can't bake while I'm in the office. I would have to wait until I go home to do my baking. Any other thing I could do really would be restricted to while I was at work. And that's not to say that, while you're at work, you should be doing your side hustle at work, because that's not something that's quite ethical, but it just shows to prove that, you can't do so much if your side hustle involves you being physically there and exerting some sort of physical activity.
Got it. Thank you so much. I was doing, well, as I was preparing, I think, the most common side hustles, side gigs that, I came across and I think speaks to a lot of things that you both have talked about, is freelancing. And I'm not specific on the content or the sector, but just the archetypes. For example, it's freelancing, it's affiliate marketing, it's drop shipping, it's content marketing, and then digital product and sales. Does that resonate, Ubemi?
Yeah.
Okay.
Quite a number of these few things, especially. So let me just add as well. As you just remembered that there are even a number of websites